Good morning. Yesterday we have seen the starting of the story An Angel in Disguise, and I have showed you the various characters. But now from where we are going to start, there you will only see these three characters. Okay, that is Maggie, the main character of the story, Mr. Joe Thompson, whom you saw means in last chapter, in last session, that Joe Thompson who came to carry Maggie and he was carrying her to his house. And Mrs. Joe Thompson, you will see, that is the wife of Mr. Joe Thompson. You will see her now, that how she behaved or how she reacted seeing this bedridden child the husband is bringing home. So only now these three characters the story moves around, what you will see here. So let us start from page number 80. Is it okay? Now Joe Thompson's wife, who happened to be childless, was not a woman of saintly temper. Saintly temper means she was not a very kind of good lady. Okay, she was not having a very good kind of behavior or temper. Okay, saintly means like a saint. She was not like a saint. Nor much given to self-denial for others' good. And she was not at all bother for others. Okay, like a kind of, you can call her a little bit selfish. And Joe had well-grounded doubts touching the manner of greeting he should receive on his arrival. And Mr. Joe Thompson was sure when he will bring this Maggie home, what reaction he is going to get from the wife. He was knowing it. Like husband knows if I do this, how the wife will react. Wife knows if I do this, how the husband will react. So well known to each other. Mrs. Thompson saw him approaching from the window and with ruffling feathers met him a few paces from the door as he opened the garden gate and came in. Now Mrs. Thompson, she saw Mr. Thompson from the window itself and not coming all alone, carrying the little child. From that time the temper was very high. Now what is this man doing? And she approached fast to the gate and came in. He bore a precious burden. Now this line you underline. He called this Maggie as precious burden. This is a very beautiful word, or you can say the line which is given for little Maggie. Precious burden. Can you call your burden a precious? Can you call your burden precious? Can it ever happen? You have like 2 months studies burden you have. You can call it is a precious burden. No. Burden means burden. We always see in a negative way. Like if your parents have the burden of money, they will never call it, oh, it's so precious burden, we are not having food to eat. So precious. You will never call it precious because you are under pressure. But here, this Maggie who is bedridden, the author gave the name it as precious burden. So very good. Sometimes the question comes, who is regarded as precious burden? Who is called as precious burden? Why? So you have to explain. Now later at the end you will understand why this girl is known as precious burden. So, and he felt it to be so, and Joe Thompson didn't say it like that, he really felt it. When he carried her, he felt it, she is really precious. As his arms held the sick child to his breast, a spear of tenderness went out from her and penetrated his feeling. A connection of a father and a child. If a father carries his own child, what the feeling will be? A very different kind of feeling. Same feeling Mr. Joe Thompson got when he carried Maggie in his arms. A kind of feeling from her to him. And that feeling was really different, beyond words. A bond had already corded itself around them both and love was springing into life. It was like that love of a father and child is coming to make a life. So that way the bond was there when he carried this little Maggie. What have you there? Sharply questioned Mrs. Thompson. Now Mrs. Thompson was very high. No love, no bonding, nothing. She said, what are you carrying? She said, what are you carrying? Joe felt hear the child start and string against him. He did not reply except by a look that was pleading and cautionary that said, "Wait a moment for explanation and be gentle," and passing in carried Maggie to the small chamber on the first floor and laid her on a bed. Mr. Joe Thompson expected this, that my wife will react. But he did not say a word. Why? Because when she shouted, Maggie got frightened. She again went closer to Mr. Thompson. So he understood, if here we start arguing with each other, she will be worried. She will be sad. It's all because of me. So he just gave a look to Mrs. Joe Thompson and said, "Wait, I will explain you." And he carried Maggie to a room, which was a small chamber kind. He kept her there, closed the door, and then came out. And then started the argument. He was very patient. "You haven't brought home that sick brat?" Anger and astonishment were in the tone of Mrs. Joe Thompson. Her face was in a flame. She said, "What a sick child you have brought here. What means, have you gone mad? A sick child you are bringing home?" And she was in a high temper, high flame. I think women's heart are sometimes very hard. Author is saying, in the term of Mr. Joe, I think sometimes women are really very hard, very hard. Said Joe. Usually Joe Thompson got out of his wife's way or kept rigidly silent and non-combative when she fired up on any subject. Usually it happens. When Mrs. Thompson get high temper or get angry, then Mr. Joe Thompson remains quiet. Because he knew, and it is a basic thing. When one person is at high temper and second one also shouting, the matter will never end. It will only raise. So he knew it. So he remained quiet. And then, it was with some surprise therefore that she now encountered a firmly set countenance and a resolute pair of eyes. Now what happened? Slowly when she was shouting and saying, seeing that Mr. Thompson is not replying, slowly her temper was getting low. She was getting low. Women's heart are not half so hard as men's. Now again he made a statement, oh, women's heart are not so hard. They can be little sober also. Joe saw by a quick intuition that his resolute bearing had impressed his wife, and he answered quickly and with real indignation. Be that as it may, every woman at their funeral turned her eyes steadily from the sick child's face, and when the cart went off with her dead mother, hurried away and left her alone in that old hut with the sun not an hour in the sky. When he saw the wife is little okay now, temper is low, then he started explaining. He said, see, the dead body went away. No one were there in the house. She was all alone, not even way how she is going to survive. So what to do? I was feeling so sad to see her. Where were John and Kate? Asked Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson said, where is her siblings, John and Kate? Farmer John tossed John into his wagon and drove off. He said Farmer John took John and went away, and Catty went home with Mrs. Alice. And Catty went with whom? Mrs. Alice. But nobody wanted the poor sick one. Send her to the poor house was the cry. Mr. Thompson said everyone was saying take this little girl to the poor house, and no one was bothered for this girl. Why didn't you let her go then? What did you bring her here for? Mrs. Thompson said, then you should have taken her to the poor house. Why you brought her here? She can't walk to the poor house, said Joe. Somebody's arms must carry her, and mine are strong enough for that task. He said, she cannot walk, and somebody should carry, and I was capable, so I carried her. Then why didn't you keep on? Why did you stop here? Demanded the wife. The wife said, then why did you come here with her? Why didn't you go to the poor house? Now see, Mr. Joe Thompson made up a story. Actually, he never wanted to take the child to the poor house. He wanted to bring her here only. But to satisfy his wife, otherwise she will get angry. More angry she will get. So to satisfy her anger, what he said, I wanted to take her to the poor house, but I brought her here. Now reason what he gave. Because I am not apt to go on fool's errand, the guardian must first be seen and a permit obtained. Now he made up this story. He said, I am not her guardian. And the guardians have to go there and give the permission because her mother died. No one. So I have to find out her guardian. Till then she will be here. There was no gainsaying this, but Mrs. Thompson did not agree. When will you see the guardians? Was asked with irrepressible impatience. Mrs. Thompson said, then when you are going to see her guardian? Tell me. She was very impatient. She said, I want to know, see the guardian fast and let her go from the house. Tomorrow. In a hurry he said, tomorrow. Why put it off till tomorrow? Go at once for the permit and get the whole thing off of your hands tonight. She said, why tomorrow? Today night only finish it. Don't linger it on for tomorrow, today only. Jane set the wheelwright. Now his wife's name was Jane, pet name Jane. He said Jane, with an impressiveness of tone that greatly subdued his wife. Very politely he said, with a love, like my dear wife, Jane. So little bit the wife went down. I read in the Bible sometimes and find much said about little children. Like in all the holy books, about children it is given like they are innocent. And we should always love them and treat them like they are next to God. So he said, see Jane, in the Bible it is written that it is written much about little children, how the Savior rebuked the disciple who would not receive them, how he took them up in his arms and blessed them, and how he said that whosoever gave them even a cup of cold water should not go unrewarded. He said, see Jane, in the Bible also written that we should not avoid children. If we take care of them, even if we give them a cup of water, we will be rewarded for it. So for one day you can take care. Now it is a small thing for us to keep this poor motherless little one for a single night. To be kind to her for a single night, to make her life comfortable for a single night. He said, can't you take care of her for a single night? She is a motherless child. And if we do good to her, God will reward us. God will bless us. In a way, he was polishing his wife. Anyway, she will understand. The voice of the strong, rough man shook, and he turned his head away so that the moisture in his eyes might not be seen. But when Mr. Thompson was speaking this, he was feeling really the love for the little child. And the tears were coming from his eyes. But he did not want to show that to his wife. So he turned his face. Because he was really feeling sad for Maggie. Mrs. Thompson did not answer, but a soft feeling crept into her heart. She did not answer, but something came into her heart, a kind of motherly feeling. A woman always, even though she become mother or not, a feeling is always there of a mother. If she see a little child suffering or something, that feeling comes. That quality God has inbuilt in females. That is why I say females somewhere have smooth heart, soft heart. Always the people say, no, women mean they have soft heart. If you at this age only, if you see a little child suffering, you will feel pain. There will be pain in your heart because that motherly feeling is always in the female from the very childhood, from the young age. We have that. So that feeling was there in Mrs. Thompson, so she felt little bit for this Maggie. Look at her kindly, Jane. Speak to her kindly, said Joe. Think of her dead mother and the loneliness, the pain, the sorrow that must be on all her coming life. The softness of his heart gave unwonted eloquence to his lips. Now what happened? He was showing Jane, see her. She's all alone. She's having no mother. She's in pain. She's in sorrow. See that. And when Mr. Thompson was saying this, his lips were shivering. Saying this, that really he was seeing Maggie, he was in pain. So he was telling his wife, see that. Mrs. Thompson did not reply, but presently turned towards the little chamber where her husband had deposited Maggie. Where the husband has kept Maggie, she went to that room. And pushing open the door, went quietly in. Joe did not follow. He saw that her state had changed and felt that it would be best to leave her alone with the child. Now Mr. Joe understood, let her be alone with Maggie, because he knew something good will definitely happen. So he went to his shop, which stood near the house, and worked until dusky evening released him from labor. A light shining through the little chamber window was the first object that attracted Joe's attention on turning towards the house. Evening time, when he was returning, he saw in that Maggie's room, that chamber, the light was there. So he first understood this Jane and Maggie, they both are in the room. So when opposite, he could not help pausing to look in. It was now dark enough. Now what happened? A light was shining through the little chamber, and the first object that attracted Joe's attention on turning towards the house, it was a good omen. It was a good sign. The path led him by this window, and when opposite, he could not help pausing to look at. It was now dark enough outside to screen him from observation. Maggie lay a little raised on the pillow with the lamp shining full upon her face. Mrs. Thompson was sitting by the bed talking to the child. Now what happened? Through that window he saw some reflection. The lamp light, that Maggie's face was reflected, and Mrs. Thompson was sitting there and talking to Maggie. And their posture was very good. Like in a good way means the conversation was going on. But her back was towards the window, so that her countenance was not seen. From Maggie's face, therefore, Joe must read the character of their intercourse. Now what happened? From Maggie's face, Joe understood the conversation which was going, that was good. Because Mrs. Joe's face he couldn't see in that reflection, but Maggie's face he saw. And Maggie's face was smiling. So he understood they were talking something good. He saw that her eyes were intently fixed upon his wife, that now and then a few words came, and if in answer from her lips, that her expression was sad and tender. But he saw nothing of bitterness or pain. A deep drawn breath was followed by one of relief as a weight lifted itself from his heart. When he saw Maggie, that her face was smiling, not even she was showing the bit of pain. A bedridden child, there will be a pain in her body, but she was not showing. And Mr. Joe was little bit relieved. He had some weight inside, that how he will convince his wife, what he will do with Maggie. All these questions were arising, but seeing this conversation structure, he was a bit in ease. He was little bit relaxed. On entering, Joe did not go immediately to the little chamber. His heavy tread about the kitchen brought his wife somewhat hurriedly from the room where she had been with Maggie. Joe thought it best not to refer to the child, nor to manifest any concern in regard to her. Mr. Joe entered directly to the kitchen, and with the sound, Jane came to the kitchen. But Mr. Joe did not utter a single word about Maggie. He knew it is not a good time to talk about Maggie. Let her say by herself. I will not say anything. So he did not say anything about Maggie. How soon will supper be ready? He asked. He said, when the dinner will be ready. Right soon, answered Mrs. Thompson, beginning to bustle about. There was no asperity in her voice. She said, right soon. And very normally she was talking. Nothing. She said, wait, I will prepare it. After washing from his hands and face the dust and soil of work, Joe left the kitchen, went to the little bedroom. A pair of large, bright eyes looked up at him from the snowy bed. You underline these lines. That is of Maggie's expression. She was having a large, bright eyes, looked up at him. It looked at Mr. Joe from the snowy bed, looked at him tenderly, gratefully, pleadingly. Underline it. How she looked at Mr. Joe? With full tenderness, with pleading and gratefully. Why she was having that nature? She was grateful. Otherwise she would be in that hut. No one would take care of her. And Mr. Joe brought her here, so she was grateful to him. How his heart swelled in his bosom. With what a quicker motion came the heartbeats. Joe sat down and now for the first time examining the thin frame carefully under the lamplight. First time Joe was watching Maggie so closely, and he was watching her that so much in pain, but still how bright she is, how much she is shining, and the happiness in her face that was extraordinary. So that it was an attractive face and full of a childish sweetness, which suffering had not been able to obliterate. The suffering couldn't take away the childness from her, the sweetness from her, and the brightness from her. Even though she was suffering, but nothing was impressed on her face. Your name is Maggie, he said as he sat down and took her soft little hand in his. Yes, sir. Her voice struck a chord that quivered in a low strain of music. He said, your name is Maggie? She said, yes, sir. And with a very low strain of music, with a very low sound, properly. Have you been sick long? He said, you were sick for a long time? Yes, sir. What a sweet patience was in her tone. Whatever answer she was giving so patiently, so sweetly. Has the doctor been to see you? He used to come, but not lately. No, sir. Have you any pain? Sometime, but not now. He said, do you have pain? She said, sometimes, but not now. When had you pain? This morning my side ached and my back hurt when you carried me. Now when he said, last time when you had the pain, he said, when last time you carried me, then my back was aching. That also with a smiling gesture, she said. It hurts you to be lifted or moved about? He said, when someone carries you, move, it pains you? She said, yes, sir. Your side doesn't ache now? He said, now is it aching? He said, no, sir. Does it ache a great deal? He said, is it ache too much, pains too much? Yes, sir, but it